What's going on? What's going on? I'm here with Tran right now. We're just going to jump on in. Tran, how did you get started in UGC?
So I've actually always been kind of a creative. I had my own small business back in like 2020 where I basically just put myself out on the internet and had to learn how to create content, but like in a way where it's organic storytelling, but like still salesy. And I had some like qualms with just kind of like the consumer space. And I was like, I don't really want to just push out product for people to buy. I kind of want something else. And then I found out about UGC and I kind of just realized like your purchasing power as a consumer doing UGC is just like so much more because now you can support the brands that you like. You don't have to push to buy if you don't want to. And it was also just like a really good creative outlet for me.
Nice. So you were doing like probably had like a Shopify store or something like that, selling your own products.
Hmm.
You learned the marketing side of things, and
Yeah.
you're like, hey, I'm gonna now take this and start to do this for other brands, right?
Yes, yes, 100%. And I realized like I didn't have too much like editing skill, but that was all hard skills that you could learn. But I had all the soft skills, so like interpersonal communication, because I'm also a nurse, and storytelling and being really concise and all that stuff. So I was like, I'll just kind of hone in on the hard skills, figure out the soft skills, or hone in on the other skills that I didn't have, and just combine it with what I already had. And like I think a year and a half later, you kind of just reiterate to whatever performance you see.
All right, so I want to get into you being a nurse in a minute, but first, what was the like transition like? We get a lot of questions like, how do I get my first deal? Like, how do I get started in this space? Once you realized like, hey, I want to do this, or you realized like, oh, this was even like a possibility, what did that look like for you? And like, how did you start to land those first deals?
So, I think when I first started, there was some information out there for free on TikTok and Instagram, but not so much so to where I could just like buy a course or have some sort of like quick jump start. So, I had found like a couple resources online. I just watched a lot of their like beginner steps and I realized like there's just three things that you really need to get started, which is like example content and a portfolio and like maybe a good pitch. So I just put together like a scrappy portfolio and just pitched to a brand that I knew was working with other UGC creators because I saw that brand on other people's portfolios and I was like, well, how about I just start here because maybe they'll say yes. And the transition was okay for getting brand deals, but there is like another social aspect to it where you have to build up credibility in another way.
Yep.
So I ended up starting to kind of become an educator because I have all these other skills that I realized was helping me get brand deals faster. So I was like, I'll just share those success stories and at the same time, like market to people who want to be me and market to people who want to work with me, combine the two and just build credibility that way. And so then you transition from having to send all these emails to having people come into your email and be like, let's work together.
Do you think that's necessary for people to like build their own personal brand, to make their own account, and for someone who maybe they've had an Instagram for a while or like a Twitter or whatever to like restart fresh, create like a brand new UGC one? Is that something that you see that's like basically a requirement these days, or no need to do that?
I think your socials are just an extension of your resume. So if if you don't put yourself out there and make yourself searchable, it's a lot harder to kind of make yourself a person to go to. Like I know a lot of brands will literally just search up UGC creator and they'll see me pop up like, oh, okay, yeah, we'll go to her. So it's not a requirement by any means, especially if you don't have that much time on your hands. But you'll probably end up making less money and have maybe a slightly harder time getting consistent brand deals if you don't have some type of social presence. I don't think you need to create like a completely separate UGC account if you already have an account. I would honestly just recommend have like incorporating some type of like UGC into their lifestyle content or putting UGC in their bio, anything that just makes you searchable. And I really like to do UGC examples and post like my examples that I created and do some type of like brand analysis because that gives a little bit more value to the brand than you just posting like your regular content.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Like, it's so much harder if you don't have a personal brand and you're not posting examples, you're not putting yourself out there, and you're only relying on reaching out, you're only relying on pitching brands or these platforms. Because even if you can get a brand interested, they are a little, they're like, okay, yeah, they go to look you up and like there's nothing there. It's going to be so much harder. I want to get into you being a nurse as well, because it's a question we get. It's like, how do people balance already having a full-time job? And there's a lot of people getting into UGC that have kids. Like, how do you balance that? How do you think about the two? Have you ever thought about going full-time? Is that something that maybe is coming down the road?
So I also get that question a lot too because I started out being a full-time nurse. I'm still a full-time nurse. I think it's 100% possible. However, you do have to put in those like 60-hour work weeks, 80-hour work weeks, at least at the upfront, before you can get some sort of momentum going. But it's totally possible. And for me, my situation is a little bit different. I don't have a 9 to 5, I have like a 12-hour day. So because I have 12-hour days, I get 4 days off in a week.
Mhm.
And those 4 days off, I'm just batching content. And maybe other people, they're like, oh, I work 8-hour shifts, but like, I don't know, people don't want to work after like after 5 o'clock, they just want to chill. And for me, like the days that I work at the hospital, and the days that I'm off, like I only do UGC. So there's like a clear separation from it. Um, and work-life balance is a big thing. Like I worked a lot, but I have other hobbies in my life that define me. Like I don't solely rely on my social presence to be like the single identifier that like makes me happy. So like you can, batch content days and show up, and like the consistency will come when you have like a good mental space that you can like return to or something like that. Like have hobbies on the outside and then just come back and do it consistently.
Do you think you'll ever go full time with it? Is that like a goal, or like you love the nursing stuff as well?
I think nursing fulfills like a deeper societal purpose for me. I don't think I'm doing that much good with UGC. Like it's for my personal growth, but I do think I need some aspect of like removing myself from the social space, being in an actual place with coworkers where I'm like walking around and interacting with people, because content creation is like a very solitary job.
Yeah.
And I think I need some type of social aspect too. But yes, to answer your question, maybe one day, but probably not now. But with my job, like I can pick up and do it for like half a year and do the other half a year content creation. So my plan is actually to like travel for 3 months and then just chill and do UGC for another 3 months and then take up a nursing job and do it for the rest of the 6 months in the year.
Love it. You said something there like content creation is a very solitary job, which it's pretty interesting. I think a lot of people would think of it, it's like, oh, it's super like social, like outgoing, but the reality of it is like you're just kind of filming by yourself, and it is like most people aren't in that world, so they can't really understand exactly what you're doing. Um, how have you dealt with that? And also like right now we're at a house with like 16 content creators, which is great to like meet other people. But when you're back in your own space, like have you developed a community or like people around you that kind of like relate to what you're doing, or do you feel like pretty isolated with it?
I think out of everyone I know, I'm the only one that does this type of stuff. But yes, I do have like my own community where I am. Um, I don't know. It's just I still feel solitary in my work, but I don't feel solitary in my life. And I feel like that's kind of the balance. And I don't necessarily need friends next to me to relate to like the type of work that I'm doing, because like I recognize there's a certain type of toxicity that is associated with being on social media. And so actually I like that there's nobody around me that's like inhibiting or like encouraging me to like be online. Like I just want to be able to separate that whenever I separate it and just spend quality time with that person without being related to work.
Love it. All right, last question. So you've been crushing it. We were talking earlier. I don't think you were there. Seems like you got like a reel that just had like 8 million views or something like that. You're working with a bunch of big brands. if you had to give the like trans secret sauce, something that maybe you do that 90% of other content creators don't do, something that, maybe there's a UGC creator earlier on their journey. What's like that kind of hidden tip that you have?
You
It's a
know,
tough one.
that is a tough one. Getting my brain juices flowing. So I think my secret sauce, I mean, I don't want to just say consistency, but there's like little tips and tricks that like I have found out that works really well for particular platforms. On Instagram, I use ManyChat, which is like another automation tool. I know you talk about Zapier. ManyChat, it allows you to like DM people. And so in my like Instagram, the way that I've been converting really, really well, it's been making like sales on digital products like $6,000 in like 2 weeks or something crazy. And it's literally because of ManyChat. So I'll post a reel and I'll make some type of like problem solution hook. In the captions, I'll give like three really, really good tips. And then in the comments, I won't say like, oh, comment and I'll DM you my guide. I'll be like, comment and I'll DM you a tutorial on something. I'll give you a freebie. But then in the ManyChat message, I'll give them the freebie, but then I'll link them to one of my resources and being like, oh, here's like another thing that will enhance this on top of that. And that's how I've been converting like crazy. So you never outright sell, but you give them a little freebie in order to make the actual sale.
So good. You heard it here. Get your ManyChat set up with Instagram if you're selling some digital products. Get those automated messages going out. Tran, thank you so much. Great little conversation
Thanks,
here.
Mike.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye, guys.